Hello, this video I'm going to call Learning with Pete because I'm certainly not showing, this isn't instructional. What I'm doing is getting my Tarava Puko, which is munted, and I'm reprofiling it, regrinding it almost with a Tormek. And we're going to see how I go, what mistakes I make, all that good stuff. So stay with me, let's kick it off. This is the Tarava Puko. It's a really good knife. It's really strong, but also really cost-effective knife made of the very much channel-approved 80 CRV2 steel. Really good stuff. This knife has been through a bit though. It's these come with a Scandi grind, but with a micro bevel. I did a bit of modification to that for the big old steel review of this that I did. And then since then it's had a bit of convexing done, it's had a bit of everything done. It's a bit of a mess, frankly, to be honest. It's been tested for rust resistance, everything. So what I'm going to do is, I don't particularly need the chunk of this knife. I do prefer a sort of more aggressive cutter rather than a durable, splitting style knife, especially for a knife this size. What I'm going to do is see how well the Tormek can apply a Scandi grind. And I know it's not going to be a true Scandi grind because it's going to have some level of concaving on it from the round stone. But looking at it right now, I think it's going to be an improvement whatever I do, as long as I do it evenly. So let's get into it. We're going to figure out how to Scandicave a Tarava Yakari Puko. Let's get to it. This may end in disaster. Exciting stuff. Step 1, make sure your Tormek has water in it. Step 2, the grit of the stone. I'm doing a fair reprofiling job really here, so I'm going to keep it pretty rough. This is on 200 grit, and then I'll revisit again at 1000 grit and try and put a bit more polish on it. So this is fine for me. Now what we're going to do is we're going to find the angle that I want to work at. And the basic way of doing that, and this is why a Sharpie is such an important tool to have near your kit, is what I'm gonna be doing is trying to find the middle of this bevel here and then applying an even new bevel across the whole thing. So I'm going to colour in this whole darn bevel. Hey, if you want to see me Scandi a knife using another system, you can see me Scandi and mirror polish my Mora Bushcraft Black as well. So this is just interesting stuff, I find. Yet this knife is going to be altered, different to probably what the maker's intent was. But if you're interested in seeing what happens, then by all means, keep watching. So this is the knife. I've coloured in that whole bevel. I'm going to be aiming at making my scratches in about the middle here, and then probably digging in just a little bit, because this is quite a chunky little cheek of steel here. This is the other side of it. You can see the knife is in a bit of a funny old state. It's even got a slight bit of, I think it's more or less flat, but maybe even a slight bit of recurving there too. So we're going to work our best. We're going to work maybe a bit slower than usual, and we're going to see what we can do to make this knife at least different. I can tell you that much. So this is the regular Tormek knife jig here. The way this works is you grab your knife, you open this as far up as you need to open it to get the knife in. You put it in about the center of the blade, like so. And then you make sure it's as square as you can see with your eyes, and that looks about right to me. This should be a pretty simple knife to sharpen this way because it's got a nice long bit of flat and a bit of belly, and when you get to the belly you pull up a little bit. So that should be, by my eye, pretty darn straight. Cool thing about these saber ground knives is the flat bit is on either side, so it keeps everything nice and even Stevens. So what I've got here is the knife, and you see I've got it all coloured in. So when I do a couple of preliminary rubs, you'll be able to see where the steel is coming. So that's right towards the edge. So what I need to do is I need to lower this bar so the surface of this blade is further down the stone. Let's try that. So yeah, that is removing the texture right in the middle. You see that new naked part there? So that I think will be about right to start Scandi grinding this knife. As I said, folks, you're just along for the ride here. This may end in tears. So as you can see, the wheel is lubricated with the water from the trough. The stone I've planed only recently, so I'm pretty happy with its correctness. There's no real rocking or anything weird going on, so I should be able to, as long as my hands stay steady, get some pretty nice, stable Tarava Pukoing going. So because I'm removing a fair bit of steel, going over nice and slowly and making sure this hand is level against this bar, so this top guide part doesn't rock back and forward like this. So I'll do a couple of passes and then I'll show you what it looks like. Alrighty, I'm always scared to look when I turn it over, so let's have a gaze. Alright, so there we go. That's actually not too bad. You can see there, it needs to dig in a little bit further to get all the way to the edge, but it is definitely a straight line. I need to work on my tip. I might even need to bring this away to get the tip perfect, but we will see. It's all a bit of playing by ear. So let's see. I'll probably speed up the footage a bit because otherwise it's going to be a long ass video. As I said, I'm going slow, I'm taking care. It's looking pretty nice, to be honest. Still not quite at the edge. I'm yet to see anything near the bevel get threatened, so fair bit of steel removals going on. This is definitely what you'd almost call a complete knife reprofiling or regrinding almost using the Tormek. So interesting stuff, you be the judge. I'll do a nice old transition shot, well, because I'll keep this side untouched and I'll be able to show you by the end. Folks, so that's the old side. You know, this is what the knife was like before I started, but on both sides. Thick old sort of sabry type grind there. This is what the side I've spent the last kind of 20 minutes working on now looks like. There we go. So immediately I can see there's a little bit of crook in this, which is probably just from my hand. There's a slight lowering of the saber of the sort of flat portion down to here, but overall pretty okay. Like for a knife that me, an unskilled fucking home sharpening idiot is working on, pretty happy with it. I mean, it's fine. It is definitely a notable hollow grind. It's got, you can sort of see the lights catching in that concave of it. So interesting how that's going to perform. What you can always do with a knife like this is put a micro bevel on it to make it much stronger on the bevel. But I'm going to make this as wood carvery as I possibly can. So I'm going to work on the other side now and bring it into even, and then I'm going to do the edge finishing probably with the 1000 grit stone. So because it's evenly clamped, I don't even have to measure. It'll just get it as even as, you know, you'd want just by resuming what I was doing, but on the other side. Alrighty, so a little bit of unintentional recurving. I lost track of myself just a little bit. Can probably fix it or just straighten it just a little bit. But yeah, I've got two pretty even, fully sort of all the way to the edge sides here. You start to notice how fragile a full convex edge is without the micro. So I reckon a micro is going to have to go on, and that'll help me neaten up this unintentional recurve I've done here as well, because it is quite delicate at the edge, like just a matter of seconds and the edge is gone and eaten into. So this is where we are right now. We're going to now sort of probably heighten the angle just a little bit and just micro bevel along here. So it should still be plenty thin behind the edge, but just a little bit more stout as well. Let's get into it. Alrighty, so whilst it's not exactly a micro bevel, it is definitely a support bevel, making it just a little bit more stable. And I'm also, I mean, there is a slight bit of curve still, but it's definitely minimized the raggedness of that crazy hollow that was existing. So you can see about a 2mm or so bevel along here, and that's what will be doing the primary cutting, because I think it was just going to be too delicate otherwise. So there we go. Yeah, it looks a bit like cancer, I know that, but I guess the proof will be in the pudding and how it cuts and how it performs. So I'm just going to tidy it up a little bit more and see how we go. What do you know? Cuts paper crazy good, with a guide on and all. Wowee. For a 200 grit edge, that is pretty darn good, gotta say. Holy shit. Well, I thought this was going to be an unmitigated disaster. I mean, it's a fucking ugly edge, but it's definitely an effective one. Wow, okay. So I'm just going to dial this up to 1000 grit and make it proper nice. Alright, so that should be a nice 1000 grit finish. Let's see how we can go now. Just tidying this up just a little bit. don't know about you, but I am pretty much certain that I am now classed as a knife maker, because I have done a pretty fabulous job on this Tarava Puko. Now, of course, I'm kidding. I've accidentally, and it's a sharpener's mistake, I've accidentally recurved it just a little tiny bit. You just lose track of stuff. I was too busy singing, all that sort of thing while I was working. But what I have made is what was a dull, pretty average cutting knife with a rust all over it and all dinged up. Made it into a pretty nice slicer. A very nice slicer, in fact. And I think that 20-degree bevel probably adds enough strength to be able to do most things. Yeah, not pretty, not an amazing finish. You can see that micro bevel is not a micro bevel at all. It's just like a bevel, and then there's your sort of Scandi-ish looking bevel, and then there's this black flat here still. So anyway, this video is called Learning with Pete, not Pete Tells You How, because this was really my first go at this as well. So I hope you've enjoyed coming along with me and checking out how the Tormek works. There is potential in this system for you to do proper regrinds and stuff. You just need to get a bit better and practice, like with everything. So there you go. In terms of fragility, well, let's just do a quick old test, shall we? So, slices paper, let's do some quick hardwood wax. Still slices paper. And I don't know if you remember my American Lawman, that stuff really put the brakes on that nice, really thin edge I had on intentionally, but yeah, pretty happy with that. Alrighty, so I actually got chips going out just then, so let's have a look. I don't know, pretty damn good, I reckon. Anyway, what do you think? Have I ruined it? Is it cool? Is it meh? Kind of interested to hear thoughts. As long as you're into knowing that I don't think this is an amazing result. It's just a cool result. It's just an enjoyable little process and something that I think I've learned from. So yeah. Thanks again for watching this episode of Learning with Pete. And I'm sure you will learn with me in the future. Goodbye now.